Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the City Council work session of Wednesday, May 22nd. Call the meeting to order and ask for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Lisa, for being a team player. Okay. Next, we will have public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make public comment? Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to make public comment? Okay, thank you. So we will go ahead and start our one and only discussion item today, and that's the Cannon Beach Elementary School finishes and occupancy load. Bruce, would you like to start us off?
Sure. The April 9th meeting, the council reviewed the design development plans for the Cannon Beach Elementary design development phase. As part of that discussion, you requested cost estimates to gender neutral restrooms and for an audio visual system that included projection screens and projectors capable of creating high quality video projection and professional audio. Another aspect that we have discussed but not formalized. Because of the nature of the renovation, we have to keep the number of individuals inside the facility to less than 300 at any time. Otherwise, we'll need to address the tsunami issue as well as the seismic. And what it is, it's an assembly consideration for different categories within the building code. And if you recall in the past, we talked about the need for scheduling so that we would, if we had a big event in the gym, we would, book or double book at the same time with the school and things like that. But what we need to do is to formalize that so that when doing the presentations with the building official, we can say that we have got a program, we have got a policy that we stay under 300. My estimation is it will always be well under that. I can't imagine too many events that we would hit that kind of a number. So anyway, it's want to make sure that we're not over programming. So I will ask you about that later on in the meeting.
And when you say the entire facility, I mean, when you say facility, you mean the entire facility,
facility.
so the whole, okay.
Yeah, if you have 100 in each classroom plus 200 in the gym, we're over. Not that that's achievable.
Unlikely. Right.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So,
On to us.
yes, please.
Okay, and I was wondering, Dustin's online. I don't know, Dustin, if you wanted to talk about the occupancy now, and then you can log off, or if we want to do finishes first. I know everybody's been off and on under the weather, so I just want to throw that out there and see.
Most of us are very healthy, right?
Well, he's not necessarily one of them. No.
Dustin?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and City Council. Yeah, I'm under the weather, unfortunately. I've got pneumonia and my kid has COVID and another one has strep throat. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind me just talking about the occupancy a little bit, and then I'll probably hop off and go back to bed.
That's fine. Okay. You have an excused absence.
All right. There's different ways that the that the building code allows us to calculate the occupant load, and they assign what they call a occupant load factor to each function of a space. And where that can get a little bit gray is where we have multi-function spaces, and the gym would be one of those. So the gym could, on a day-to-day basis, the typical use of that is going to be an exercise room, and that carries an occupant load of 50 square feet per occupant. It could also be considered an assembly space, and the layouts that we have shown are for tables and chairs, and the occupant load rating for that type would be 1 per 15 square feet. So when you calculate that across several thousand square feet, the difference is pretty significant. So what the code allows is for spaces like the gym or like the classroom where there's no fixed seating, it allows the building official to use their discretion to say the calculated occupant load is way higher than what the actual occupant load would be. And how we've calculated it based on the calculated occupant load versus the actual occupant load based on all the seating layouts that we've shown you, we're actually right there. We're right below 300, mid 250s to 300. So I think we're going to be fine without the building official having to use that discretion, but he does have the power to use his discretion and use the actual occupant load, is what we call the design occupant load. But in any case, we do have to keep under 300 occupants so that we are not considered a risk category 3. A risk category 3, public assembly buildings are not allowed in tsunami zones. And that risk category 3 comes in if we're over 300 occupants, as Bruce said. So just want to be real straight with you guys as we're thinking about the programming for this facility and what the limitations are. And I think you all had a fairly good idea, but it's been a while since we've talked about this, and I just wanted to keep this at the forefront. So thank you, and happy to answer any questions you have.
So does the fire marshal have anything to do with that assessment too, or is it just building officials?
The code states the building official. However, I think that could be read as the jurisdiction. So it would be worth having the fire marshal also look at it. Typically, it'd be more the fire marshal's purview to enforce the occupant load that the building official has set under that discretion.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Dustin? Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
You too. Yeah, hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Okay, Maya.
Okay. So I will share the information that we sent out with the packet. Hang on. Okay, so these are just some updated renderings as a progression of what we showed you last time. So these gym renderings are the first, let me just. So this first rendering is the typical classroom. What we did on this one is we just focused on the LVT flooring. We presented last time was the option of a carpet or a darker LVT. This one just shows that lighter LVT. We did also update those tables to be more realistic of what we would actually purchase, which are going to be those nesting training tables so they can fold down and stack away. I know that was a conversation we were having, that those big, beautiful wood tables probably weren't going to happen. So we wanted to make this as realistic as we could. But really, that's the main update to this, that this will represent the finishes that I'll come up there and talk about in a minute. These next renderings are going to be for the gym. And the main conversation we were having was more in relation to what we were doing with the ceiling, that some of the options that we had shown last time, it was just really too heavy. So what we've shown on these next few is a couple of different options. Number one, painting that existing structure like a light white color, or potentially, and I will flip back and forth a bit, or potentially more of a mimic of a wood color. And then those panels, changing the color of those panels. So if you recall the last time we had the wood structure painted like a dark charcoal gray, and we were using a dark charcoal gray acoustical panel. So this one is using a wood mimic color and a kind of a brown panel. So this one is your darkest option, and I'll come up there and show you. But these other two are showing, I'm sorry, I feel like I double clicked. There you go. These others are showing the wood with a light panel, and then the white with a light gray panel, or the white paint with a white panel. So you can see very quickly how they kind of change in feel as you were to walk in the space.
Can I ask you a question?
Huh?
Why the dark black or dark brown hole down the middle? Why is that color?
This here,
Yeah,
That is, I believe, the HVAC duct. And I think it's just showing a little darker than it probably will be in reality. That's probably just gonna be a spiral, like aluminum.
Oh, okay.
We could even paint that as well. It doesn't have to be standing out quite so heavy as it is. And I actually hadn't noticed that before, so we can always paint it, or the reality, like I said, is just straight off the shelf. It's just that kind of stainless steel chrome.
It's a lot nicer than black.
Yeah, that's a little, yeah, you're right. Sleeve.
That's what I remember.
It's just, yeah, it might be fabric and we need to make sure that it doesn't go bang when it fills up.
Okay.
Well, that really makes it seem like school does that.
And they all try to get it to me.
Right.
Yeah. What happens is that it'll just fold like this, and then when the air comes on, it starts at the end by the air handler. And it just blows up, it blows up, it blows up all the way, and then it gets to the end and it goes, bang, no one's going. So it's one of those that startled me several times.
Well, are you looking for us to weigh in on the different options?
Yeah, and I'll come up there in a minute. I'm just gonna go through this quickly just so you can see them. I think those were the 4 slides specific to that. And maybe, because I'm probably will go a little bit back and forth. I'll leave it there and I'll come up and show you the actual finishes. So the first time around, it was this really dark. I'm sorry, this is actually not the original one. This is that brown option, that 4th option. These are the other options that come standard. So there's kind of a very bright white, a little bit warmer white, and then this light gray. And again, these renderings that you see, they're very representational, but we did use each of these colors in each of those. I always default to the actual thing, and then let's look at it, you know, from underneath as it changes color. So those are the lighter panels. And then for the painting of the structure, we chose a warm white. So we'll go with any of those really, unless, you know, if you want it to stand out versus more kind of a blend. And then to mimic the wood, again, because as you turn it up, it turns dark. So we went fairly light with it and have another option in case you were interested in that. But those are the 2 options that you're seeing in all the
Okay.
renderings.
Those pieces of paper, the colors,
Yep.
are those the ribs going?
Those are the ribs.
Okay,
Yes,
all right,
the ribs only. So what you're looking at right now is showing the white rib
okay.
with,
The-
I believe it's actually this guy, and I can just
Ray.
to see, yeah. So those.
Okay. Where is the warm white?
As far as the panel goes, I
Mhm.
think it's the next one.
I think it was the first one.
Well, I think this is the first one. Let me back up one. Yeah, so that's your first one. And that is with the standard white for the panel. The second one is the gray. Okay. It looks like they're all shown with that standard gray. Nope, first one's white. Okay.
White, not the warm white.
Standard white, so. Maybe it's labeled wrong, I'm sorry. I'm assuming it's this one because it matches more with this color. Sorry, this color. You see the warmth?
The warm white,
versus
yeah,
the
mhm.
Cool,
Right.
yeah. And then the others are showing this Arctic.
And there isn't one with the warm white and the lighter color wood, is there?
There's not, because really when you're doing rendering, you know, they're meant to be representational. It's not realistic. So it's just to give you an idea, and then really let's talk about it in
Mhm.
actual samples. So do you think this kind of combination versus that combination?
Well, do you want to weigh in?
Sure, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
okay, well, because we live in Oregon, I would say 86 on the gray,
Sure.
and I do not, and the dark.
Yeah, don't want.
I mean, the dark is attractive, but it's just not for this climate.
Sure.
I like the warm white actually with the light colored wood ribs, because I love those ribs. I think they're beautiful.
Somewhere like
I,
that.
yeah, I think that's really nice.
And that would be,
And they don't have a picture of that.
Well, again, we have a vague idea. So this one here is actually showing it is showing the gray, but it's so representational that it's just a tonal
But
difference.
that-
in that.
Those ribs are a lot darker in that.
Anything like the rib,
The
that
ribs
color
are
there.
dark, and that's the problem with renderings. It's just you gotta tweak the lighting to get it to work a little bit better.
That you got whatever the colors come up on the screen.
Okay,
Yeah, and the
so
digital screen is.
that
always a
would be the
little-
colors it would be, right? The warm
Yes.
white and the light
Yes.
wood.
Yes.
And if other people felt strongly about the light colored wood, I mean, the
This one.
white ribs, that would be fine too, but I
No.
think the ribs are so attractive. It's a
That's my
cool,
choice. right
yeah.
there.
I sure would, I wouldn't want them this, as dark as they're showing. I wouldn't mind it in the lighter. I prefer the light, yeah, the white on the white, because again, because of the climate and how dark things get.
I think it won't be
But-
dark, Nancy.
And
I think it's
actually,
gonna be
I'm
that.
sorry, now that I even say it, I think she might have rendered it with this darker one.
Right.
Yeah, I
Quite a
don't
bit
yeah.
different.
like that.
And I always again say, once you turn it, it really changes.
It
too.
does.
So
That is
better.
warm.
And think about this as your flooring, right? So you're gonna have this kind of on opposite.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
nice.
So it's a good kind of way to tie it together. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely want the lighter. If we're gonna have color up there, definitely want the lighter.
Yeah. And another question I have is why are you putting blue lines on the floor? Why aren't you picking up the red of the design?
Those are specific to the different sports.
Oh,
So there's a volleyball line, there's a basketball line, there's a
I'll
pickleball.
just get rid of the pickleball one.
So they all create.
No, you don't. Until you get coffee with the counselors and you get all.
Yeah, it was the closest to violence I ever saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that combination.
Yeah, the warm with the wood color.
Yep.
Yeah,
That one.
yeah.
Okay.
Provided it's light like that and not like in the.
Yeah, and again, that's why I say that renderings can be helpful, but then also you can get really locked
Right.
in.
And I have to say that, we want it as warm as possible because it's a big cavernous space and it's a very gray, oftentimes very gray. And we want it to, feel,
And this is the standard white that we're proposing on the walls, and it's definitely got more warmth to it. Sorry,
Mhm.
this one.
yeah.
This is the ceiling. So that one's got a little bit more warmth to it, which will help as well. It doesn't feel so stark.
I think I like white better.
You like this one better for the
Yeah.
walls?
Well, that isn't stark. I mean, it's not a blue white, it's a warm white.
It's definitely a warmer white.
I like it better too.
Yeah, I like that better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brandon?
Brandon doesn't care.
Never.
I actually do, but
Oh, you
I
do?
just wanted to think about, how it's gonna wear since those walls are
Yeah,
Yeah, we have to think about
part of the
maintenance and cleaning. Yeah.
aspect of it.
I think between the two, I don't think you're gonna see a huge difference
Mhm.
as far as the wear goes. A lighter color is gonna, eventually show scuffs or whatever, but.
Ball marks is what you're saying.
Right, yeah. And again, it's hard just putting them straight down because you always try to look at them, the way they're gonna be, if they're vertical, you wanna look at them vertical because.
And then when you do it vertical, I like the lighter white even more.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
And
I think we really.
I have dairy.
And Gary votes yes. Yes.
okay,
That's what he said.
okay. Mike is out of the way.
Vote for you.
Okay,
Mhm.
so that's that one. The next one is gonna be an experiment. So again, I'm gonna show these side by side. But again, keep in mind the renderings can only do so much. And I even had to look at these side by side to even understand that there's a difference. So the one on the left is the taupe. We're looking at the floor. So that pigmented concrete. The one on the left is taupe, which is a little bit on the lighter side. The one on the right is the Kailua pigment color, which is theoretically the darker one.
So here's my question. When we met last time, I felt very strongly that when the community was here, we had two different colors of pigment, not just a difference in texture. And I asked that they go back and figure out what the cost differential is to have one other color of pigment, because that's what we showed the community. And they liked that. They were really, people seemed to have a lot of enthusiasm about the lobby.
Yeah.
That in particular, and now that's been watered down.
So I don't think Remick has done an update on the pricing to see about changing the color, because if you were gonna do a stain color, it's different. But the pigmented color, it's all poured the same, and with the coastline cut that we're trying to do, that's gonna be difficult to get two different distinct colors. So I think he's working on it. I can
Okay.
confirm with him, but what I wanna show you, which I probably have to stop
We're
sharing.
talking about pigment.
Mhm.
The way I understand is the pigment, they mix the color in with the cement, and when they stain it, it happens afterwards.
Yeah,
Once it's
pigment is
down.
one process, and
Right.
yes, it's just in the concrete itself, and that's gonna wear better. The problem with
Okay.
applying the stain on top is
It'll wear off.
that it wears off, you start to see the traffic patterns, there's
Okay.
more maintenance
So
to
you
it.
want it pigmented. So that would mean
Ideally.
two different cement trucks full of,
No, you can't do that.
what do you mean?
You can't pour that.
Right, that's gonna be the difficult, my suspicion is the reality to be able to get
Different-
actually true colors.
Not and have the definition of that
Really?
map.
I think,
Not even if you build no?
Not in the intricacy that they're proposing.
Hmm.
I think it's gonna be difficult, I think probably if we really need to do that, it all gets poured and then one side gets the stain applied on top.
Oh,
I
I
don't
see.
know that
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah,
sure.
yeah. Okay.
But in order to get a true two different colors, I think it's gonna be a little difficult. But what I wanna show you, let me stop sharing. And start sharing again. This- So, and I believe we looked at these last time. And I can open these, I don't know if that's gonna work. If I open them individually, is it gonna shut my share down and, cause I'm just in preview mode right now.
Right, yeah, it's working.
Okay. Okay, so these are showing you, it's all one pigmented concrete with that sandblasting,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, and what I'm gonna show you here in a bit with these samples that are on the floor is you can really see the difference. And it very much depends on where you're standing and the way the light is hitting it. But you can see as you toggle through these that you can really see a difference in shade and tone between the sandblasted kind here and the standard sealed finish. And some of these, as you toggle through, you can really start to see the difference.
Yeah, you can.
So it's, again, it's not a color change, but it is definitely a differential.
That reads
Balance.
color change.
It can absolutely.
Very
Again,
subtle.
the light hits it is gonna make a difference.
Mhm.
So are you suggesting that's what's going to happen with the floor in the lobby?
That's
Type
what,
of
that's what.
food versus the rough?
Yeah.
So where would the rough be? That would be the outline of the
That'd be the land.
That would be
county?
the land side is our assumption right now, and then the just standard sealed would be the ocean side. So
Is it pigmented?
it is pigmented.
Okay.
And again, part of that too, for the pigmentation was to get more of a warm feel to that concrete. One of the things early on we talked with the tribes about is concrete and it's cold and it's, they didn't like
Yeah,
that.
it's industrial looking.
Yeah,
It's not pig-
so this concrete has the pigment in it, so it has that warmth to it. Again, with a grain of salt on these, because these just cured and all they were able to do was get the sandblasting done. And that's why I have this cup here, Bruce. Once it gets a sealant put on it, it will start to bring out the difference. So you may not even be able to see from here, but if you were to touch this, you could feel where the sandblast is versus where it's not.
Which one's sandblasted?
Right. So. I don't know, and as you move a little bit, you can probably pick it up a little bit more. But there's a standard finish here, and then there's a sandblasted in the middle and a sandblasted around that side.
Well, if you wet them both.
Yeah, it doesn't, I can't get it. It's,
Oh, I see.
it's not getting in there.
So how do you keep that look then?
Wet.
So the actual sealant that they put on there starts to, impregnate that first layer. So it would change. This is just the best I can do kind of on the fly to try to show you that. This one has a different sandblasting area. So again, as you're moving around, you start to see it change and you can see the difference a little bit more depending on the light and how it hits it.
How come that one has so much more of a differentiation?
I don't know how they did their sandblasting. Really, this one's the Kailua and this one is a shade down from there. I don't honestly see a difference between the two, and I think that's what they were trying to show us is a color difference.
Because from here, the sandblast on the one on my left is it looks much different.
It looks, there's more of a definition there.
It again might just be that there happens to be more aggregate at that one area that's now,
Well, yeah. I can see that and I can understand now that what Brandon explained about why you couldn't do that. Why you couldn't, it would be so difficult to do two different pigmented colors because you'd have to build such an incredible structure to even
Yeah.
separate them
Jan,
if you were going to, but I'm just wondering about the color then. I don't know.
So is that the color that is being posed?
Looks a little cementy.
it is the one, you're right, is the one that we were proposing. It's
Can you-
darker.
Can you give us some other color options?
They do have other color options.
Because that is not, I mean, if you're saying that
Like
tribes,
red.
if you're saying that tribes don't like the industrial kind of feel to it, I think those both look industrial.
I think concrete in and of itself certainly can.
Oh, I've seen concrete look incredible, absolutely
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, and it's probably a stained concrete.
Well, probably it was, yeah.
And we can look more into that.
If you seal a stained concrete well, can't you preserve it?
You can, it's a maintenance issue. You're gonna have to reseal it, especially in those heavy traffic areas. You're gonna have to seal it more frequently. I don't know how often off the top of my head.
Right,
And I don't honestly recall where Bremick thought this would be a better solution to get what we're after. So I can talk more with Dave about it.
I wish you would, because I'm just not thrilled with that.
Okay. I think,
I mean, I think it's okay, but I just don't think it's gorgeous.
It doesn't show the reality doesn't show what the screens are showing, what your projection is showing.
And I think that,
And that's what we wanted to look at.
given that the floor was such a big part of the lobby and what turned people on about the lobby, I think we have to make sure that whatever we do on that floor is very cool.
Well, and the design, I mean, if that's what the design is supposed to look like with the part in the middle, as it's drying off, you're not gonna see that.
well, but again, it's not gonna dry off.
Yeah,
You know,
the
that
sealant
is
is
gonna make
supposed
it
to.
look wet all the time, so you're gonna see that differentiation between
It's
the
not that
two.
much of a direct.
I'd love to know what the difference in maintenance is of a very well sealed stain versus a pigment.
Sure. And when we talk about the stain, and you say we were showing two different colors.
Yeah,
I don't remember there being two different colors so much as was a light and a dark. So I just want to clarify, when your mind are thinking color, are you like, explain that a little more to me?
I don't know. I just felt like maybe it was this, it could have been the same color, but one was much darker than the other.
So big.
A much bigger contrast than
So
that.
this is too subtle.
It's way too subtle.
Okay.
And I just think that, everything else in the lobby is sort of those brown tones and beige tones. And I thought the floor seemed to me to be a sort of a dramatic center for the room.
Definitely.
And that's not dramatic.
I think the reality of this, once it would be all said and done, I think the drama would be there. Maybe not quite to the level that you're wanting. I think this is really hard to convey. That's a little bit difficult with these samples to show you, like, yeah, this is kind of what it will look like.
Well, maybe you could get do you have the original pictures you showed us 2 years ago or whatever it was?
I don't probably have them with, maybe. Maybe. I might. I think I had them this time.
Back in the archives.
I know. It's like 15 years ago. Seems like it.
Oh, maybe another 15 years. Don't know.
I do. Wow. I do.
What's the date on?
Shoot, man, it's only February of this year.
Oh, come on.
No, this was way before then. This was,
The original, this is like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
These ones?
That's close.
that is close.
Yeah.
So this one, I believe this was carpet at one point that we were proposing, but,
Ick.
right, yeah. Yeah.
I was waiting for you.
But I understand what you're saying as far as the contrasts, and that this change has lost enough of that we need to come up with some different options.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah, because I'm not interested in disappointing people.
Yeah, so if you look at that next to,
If you could get the color and contrast of the previous slides that she showed.
The one on the right?
No, that showed the pictured examples of the etched concrete.
oh, yeah,
Representative of this design.
yeah.
But if you could get those results, I think that's what we're trying to achieve here.
See, and I think that's just too subtle.
I don't think this is an accurate representation of what the work would actually be.
Yeah.
Well, I'd have to see an accurate representation because if I look at that and I look at that picture on the left, I'm underwhelmed.
So I don't know how feasible it might be to do a mock-up and do like a mini version of like, let's etch an actual coastline and see, but
Going to all kinds of expense either.
no.
I think what would best serve us is if that we got what it really is going to look like. It doesn't
Right.
necessarily have to be the shape, but it definitely has to be the texture and the tone of the,
And the contrast,
well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
explaining.
So he was able to get these literally just cured and sandblasted and to me yesterday. So I can take these back and see, again, if they put that sealer on there, maybe that makes a big difference, and bring that back. But in the meantime, also talk to him about what are some other options to get a higher contrast. And you can look at those side by side.
And the cost of stain
Mhm.
and the wearability of stain.
Yeah, initial cost and long term.
Because I have to say, I mean, stain can also get you wonderful, subtle. It doesn't have to be all wild or anything, but it can get you a really nice texture in the water part that makes it look almost like water.
No, I know. I've seen some really beautiful stained concrete. I have also seen a lot of really beautiful concrete that has worn really terribly. So I just want to make sure if that's the road we go, we know what we're going into, we know what the maintenance is.
Have to know that.
Yep. Okay.
But other than that.
Okay, so the other things that are up there that we talked about to some extent last time was the bathrooms and the tile on the wall.
Mhm.
So what we have here, So the bathrooms themselves, the floor would be concrete, whatever we're doing in the lobby. But to have a wall tile in the bathroom up to 4 feet,
Like a wainscot.
wainscot.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of different options here. I brought you just the sizes and some of these you've seen before. I think what we only had was just very neutral colors the first time. So we pulled a couple of others that have a little bit of color to it. We did see these before as well. But the other thing we talk about is that even if you do a neutral or a white, what we could do above that on the walls was pull in some color. And that would make a big difference and not make it feel quite so institutional.
Do you have a lighter blue than that?
Well, there's all kinds of lighter blues. I mean, they're
No, I mean, isn't that one in the middle? Or
they're
no?
just different tones. Yeah,
Yeah.
different tones. But even at that, you could go with more of a kind of a very neutral, subtle.
I guess I just don't like the wall color,
You don't like the wall color at all
No.
with the blue?
not particularly.
It looks gray to me.
Yeah, me too. And it looks,
Yeah, we tried to keep it more of that subdued color rather than a real bright blue.
Well, doesn't it, there's, I mean, there's a much wider range between subdued and bright.
Oh, yes. Yes, there are.
So those are subdued
Mhm.
and then there's bright, like the turquoise on that
Sure.
tile.
Sure.
And then there's a whole range in between that I'd like to see.
I mean, there's like even a powder blue
Yeah,
or a
right,
bird's egg blue or whatever they
right,
call it.
Sure,
exactly.
sure.
That to me,
Something that's a
gray
little
and white.
more cheerful,
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I agree.
fair enough.
cheerful blue.
And the easy thing about the paint is that's a very quick answer. We can pull out the fan deck, we can pick it. What I think I really want to understand is the wall tile. I'm afraid to show you something too terribly dark, but I wanted to show you a few different options, just so you had something to.
I like the light one myself, but
Which one?
the lightest
Which one do you consider the lightest?
white one.
That one? Yeah, those two, I agree with that.
Okay, well, I can pull these.
I know that, colors are become popular. Like if we were in the sixties right now, you'd be showing us avocado green and harvest gold.
Oh,
you know. So it's true that colors go through cycles and these are the colors now. Subtle colors like this.
So.
Yeah.
Sure.
I just look at my son's house. I mean, that's all he's gotten it,
These are definitely more classic, right? These are gonna be
Yeah.
timeless. They're not gonna like.
Right, the
trend out.
white, right.
Yes.
And blue is timeless, as long as it's not too crazy a blue, but like a very, very pale powder blue or pale robin's egg blue or,
Sure. Sure.
one that isn't, screaming blue.
I think you and I might be more on the same page with the blues, because I think we had some of those at one point and.
Now, what is the difference between not the middle tile there
This one
and that
and that
that
one.
one?
Like that one better.
This one. This
Yeah,
one.
this one. That's shiny and cooler looking.
So they're just different manufacturers, and as you look at them a little bit closer.
This has a little more
little more
texture to
texture.
it. So it looks like the textured one.
It looks a little more handmade and it's
Yeah.
actually cheaper of the two.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was
Well,
surprised.
that kind of pulls me in. The cheaper.
Yeah.
That.
I mean, not.
Less expensive.
Yes, I'm sorry, less expensive. And again, looking at them, the way they're actually
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
be installed.
Yeah.
I like.
I like the
texture.
textured
You
one
guys
a lot
see
better.
Yeah, I
the movement in it.
Yeah,
It's like subway tile.
yeah.
So we like this one
Yeah.
in the good.
And that's very classic, white and blue. You can't get more classical and,
Yep. Okay. Fair enough to say these are off the table.
oh, yeah.
Okay,
Literally.
literally, yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Careful while stepping back.
thank you.
Nervous. I'm nervous for you.
You are? You know how clumsy I can be?
Oh, clumsy I can be.
Yeah. The other thing I don't believe we talked about last time was a solid surface counter for the sinks in the bathroom. Again, trying to keep it nice and simple
Think that'd be
and
fun.
clean and something that's not gonna trend out. And if you guys wanna see it
Yeah.
closer,
I've used this before in my own house.
Yeah.
I like that, yeah.
How's that look with the,
Looks pretty good.
so you have.
yeah, you're right, that's great.
Yeah.
Mhm. Looks like vanilla ice cream with little pieces of vanilla in it.
Vanilla beans in it,
Yeah,
slices.
It's nice to have some of the flex in there because it
Mhm.
helps, you know, when there is maybe dirt or
yeah, it
whatever.
does, or sand in our case.
Sand too.
We get a lot of sand everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
The last thing, I don't know that we explained this very clearly the last time. We had these couple of accent paint colors for the classroom versus the gym. They're very, very similar. I always think about maintenance and your people down the road and they grab the can of paint and they go fix it. I just want to simplify it and pick one and use it at both.
Okay,
So again, with that same vision of this one's a little bit more on the gray side, this one has a little more warmth to it. But it's gonna be, you know, do you like?
This is for what? The counters in the class?
No, the walls.
Walls in the classroom?
Classrooms and the gym, and it would just be specific walls, so an accent. So like in the classroom where you have the operable partition, the soffit that's up above, we were proposing to have an accent color there. So that combination versus that combination.
do the other one again.
Mhm.
I like the warmer one myself. Cause that looks too.
Are we,
gray.
is that the color we're paying the gym or again, is it just the accent color in the gym?
Right,
Just the accent.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm sorry, not gym, lobby and classroom.
Okay.
Gym is just gonna be the
Okay.
face.
then I'd say definitely go with the warmer one myself. I just gray, I just say, I'm really,
I know, I'm,
Okay.
gray is just,
it just isn't good here.
No, I agree.
It's,
I think the warmer is
Yeah.
nicer, but I didn't wanna.
can I ask you a question about the blue tile? I mean, I love the accents and stuff, the blue and the thoughtfulness of it. Have you run that shade of blue past the tribes yet?
We have not yet.
Because I'll tell you why, I'm worried. I don't know if their beads are based on a cobalt and that is not cobalt.
Yes. So we're currently trying to coordinate that. It's some of the tile samples that we get, this isn't even the exact shape and everything. Some of the samples, the tile manufacturers just say, well, this is what we have on hand, this is what you can have.
Right,
So we're still asking for the actual
okay,
specific.
Okay.
Because this particular tile has a big variety in it.
Right.
And we're talking about those longer pencil pieces where you would see some of the really dark, some of the really light. And when they sample them out, they might have cut out the darker. But yes, we were talking,
Right.
we did talk about that last time as well.
Mhm.
okay,
So you're not gonna forget that.
Nope.
Yeah,
that
that's
is
pretty-
Definitely on our list of things.
because that has a teal cast to it, a little bit of green in it. And you know, I don't know if their beads are lapis or what they are, I'm not sure. If they're lapis, it's,
Talk about it's been cobalt.
Cool.
yeah, that's not cobalt.
Right.
Okay, I think
Okay,
that's everything on here. We've already talked about the different stuff. Okay.
I want to know where she's going to put the orange.
Hmm?
I want to know where she's going to put the orange.
Oh, yeah,
Orange.
Oh, I'm just teasing.
Well, it's funny that you say that because orange was my color and everybody's afraid I'm always gonna sneak orange to my projects. I said, no, it's my personal color. Not gonna put it in my projects. Okay, I think that's everything because we've gone through, this just had the couple of different views of the lobby.
well, I'm happy actually, because I'm thrilled to see that the actual color is lighter than in this rendering for the gym. Because I even thought the
Yeah.
lightest one looked dark in this picture, but now I see the color, it's much better.
See, Lisa?
Hmm?
I see,
Oh, yeah,
for some reason, the pictures on my phone.
those are so
packet
dark.
didn't come through on.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think everyone's is gonna have a different look to it because in your printer.
Right. And these lights are not the best.
No,
Well, fluorescent,
Yeah.
Yeah, the lighting always makes a big difference,
greenish, yeah,
which can be difficult.
great for skin tone.
Yeah. So my marching orders are to have further conversations with Bremick about getting these samples to be true representations, so whatever sealant would go on it, so we can actually see what the finished product looks like. But then also to talk about the potential of a stained concrete, so we can get real high contrast, light versus dark.
Like cobalt.
Hmm?
Cobalt tile.
Yes, but that's tied in with our tribal meetings that we're having. But yes. And then like a light powder blue option for your toilet room.
Yeah,
I want to know the cost of the various,
Stain,
yeah.
yes, cost maintenance, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yep, those are my homework assignments.
okay, okay, thank you. That was
Thank you,
great.
Lisa.
Thanks, Maya.
It's not true. It's so much darker on my printer. Or the city's printer than what we saw here.
Oh my God.
Oh, cool. That's not dark.
It's weird that I get-
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, see it. What that?
No. Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you.
Hey, just real quick from a timing perspective, Dustin's gonna be presenting the 50% budget review on June 11th.
That's
Will
cobalt.
you have that information by June
I like
11th?
cobalt.
I can confirm.
The Zoom.
Then we can piggyback that with
This, I have a couple.
this information. We get everything back to that.
It's a beautiful blue. That's the blue.
Of course.
It would make sense that they would.
Ceramic meat.
Yeah, well, it could be ceramic. I don't know if they use lapis or ceramic. I don't know. But that's lapis color. And it's a lot brighter than that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys done with your sidebar? Okay, so we need to still talk about the occupancy or,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, I think that in this is a work session. At some point, maybe at the next voting meeting, that you vote to include something in the operational manual or whatever we want to call it. That the total limit in the entire facility is 300. That's only inside,
Right.
Right.
Has nothing to do with the grounds.
correct? That's important. So maybe we'll bring a statement or resolution or something.
Good.
Okay.
Okay, is there anything else?
Yeah, I just got a question about, I think maybe it would be helpful if we actually had a discussion about what we really want occupancy to be. I know we want it under 300, but we want it much lower than that.
So Bruce, I do have one of the furniture layouts that we had all talked about that showed kind of some seating counts, and that's from like over a year ago. If that would be helpful to bring that back up and
Yeah, why don't you bring it up?
Because I'm assuming the classrooms was like 25, 30 people max. I remember at one discussion with the expanded room that maybe it was more approaching a number higher than that.
Think if you put up like theater seating, you get a lot more.
I thought it was like 100 people's theater.
Yeah, we had numbers for all.
Right.
But was that in the gym or was that in the class?
Classroom.
I think it was
double
Classroom.
so this layout was showing so again, this was early on when we were trying to talk about a different kind of function in each room. So a classroom set up here, versus a craft setup here versus an exhibit setup here. But ultimately, all three of these rooms could be going with the same kind of function at any given time. So if you look here, this is maxed out at 36 chairs. And really, same thing, if it's set up as a craft, would be 36 chairs. So really, you're talking 96 max here for the kinds of functions that we had talked about.
Yeah, but if you're showing a movie in the double classroom, it was more like 100.
Yeah, and I don't have that one with me. It might have been in a previous packet. We did show, and again, this is so old that this doesn't have that operable partition between these two rooms. It's showing it between these two. But we did do a max capacity layout here. And I want to say with your aisles and exits clear, it was 130 some max.
Theater seating.
Theater seating, yeah. And then what we had shown in the gym for an event with some tables and chairs, keeping space for, you know, a stage presentation area, leaving space here around the kitchen and the entry and bathrooms. We had this at 112 chairs. So I think this schematic that we had last February was, you know, a max of like 270 something.
So you could have a full event in the gym and have a show movie in the two classrooms at the same time and be under 300.
I think,
Simultaneous.
You'd be right there,
Right.
probably. Yeah, yeah,
and then you include staff and other people,
right.
but,
And then you think about
parking,
parking.
everything else associated with it.
Yeah.
I think that, what I'd like to do is to get to the idea that to be successful, we don't have to maximize every event. We just have to have a lot of events and a lot of things that people are interested in, without overcrowding.
And to get back to, I think the point that was made is that we wouldn't plan on having those max capacity events in both locations.
Right.
It would be a very rare.
I'm much more comfortable with those numbers if they were, you know, each separate, not
Yeah.
full max.
And, I would just like to get it so that we are in fact tying the hands of people that'll come later. If somebody says, well, let's see how many people we can get in the gym or something, it's somehow in there that it's like, no, we never have more than this number.
Right.
We never have more than this number in the classroom. I think that changes the nature of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, and just how the space will function.
Right.
So, Maya, would you be able to speak for Dustin about what he spoke about with the occupancy when it was versus a sports facility, and then if you have an event?
Yeah, so the code has a different load factor that's applied.
Understand.
Yeah,
And it would be up to the building official to interpret it.
so that particular part of it is you either calc it by the area and the load factor, or the building official can do an actual load, which is the sorts of things where we're saying, this is how we're gonna have it set up. These are the intended uses. This is the max we're planning for. So the building official does have the authority to choose one or the other, but it's up to us to present if we want him to consider this actual.
We want to provide that to him.
Yes. And then now I completely understand. Thank you.
Anything else?
I just want to check with Jen. You just don't want me to run a meeting on June 4th? Is that what you're saying?
When we were going through our agenda list, because we had moved the public hearing and the ordinances to May 5th, that just left the Tufted Puffin proclamation. And so we thought, instead of having you guys come in for one item,
Sure, okay, I understand.
but I bet we can talk to Barb and see if maybe she'll let you run the 5th.
Yeah.
No, 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 that's okay.
So is everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Canceling the fourth, so that way we just have a meeting on the fifth. I do believe we still have the sixth on hold should they come up.
Mhm.
But we at this time aren't anticipating anything. And then we have our regular work session on the 11th. We have the 12th on hold. And we have the 18th, which is our budget meeting.
I would like to explain something that you're gonna see coming up with some appeals. The way, there are two.
I would assume we're in the good of the order now.
No, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. That, I think it might be the fifth. There's two appeals for short-term rentals that we had found were we're in violation. And the way the code reads is that we go to the next meeting. And then the way that the code reads is that the penalty is that the next month you can't rent. And so what we've run into, and then for some reason we've never run into it before that I'm aware of, is that we have two appeals that are coming that have been told that they can't rent in June, but the appeal dates are in June. And so even if you were to change the opinion, if you were to grant the appeal, it wouldn't happen until after they could not rent in June. So it's just something that we have to fix in the code.
We have a lot to fix in the short-term rental.
But I'm saying, but it's just that one particular, it's like, it sets it up that we're in.
We can't punish someone before the appeal period is done, so we'd have to switch it to July. Or if they were,
We did have Bill weigh in on this, and the problem's coming into the fact that you have a 20-foot hearing notice. And that's where the issue is. So if otherwise we could have had it here in May. But because it's in the land use section, we have to do a 20-day hearing notice. Just to have it come to council. So the earliest we can do it today, I noticed it today, and 20 days from today is June 11th.
I don't understand, what kind of an appeal is it? They got dinged for renting without a permit or something?
No, they had violations, I believe it was on the room tax. Was it?
Possibly, yeah, I don't recall exactly, Jen.
Yeah, and so they had violations and they accrued enough violations to be suspended. So they were suspended for the month of June. But per our code, they have a right to appeal. But when they
Okay,
go to appeal, there's a process we have to follow with the 20-day notice. So we suspended them for June, but now they'd like to overturn that suspension. And the earliest we can get them to you is June 11th.
okay.
So if we decide that to uphold the original decision on June 11th, can't we go from June 11th or June 12th to July 12th? Do we have to have it like,
Does it have to be a calendar?
does it have to be a calendar month?
We didn't get that information from Bill yet. We've been trying to work out the logistics of when to get it to you guys.
Well, that's a great question. I'd like the
I
answer to
will
that.
shoot an email now and ask them.
I mean, if it's just 30 days, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to necessarily be that month.
Then the suspension can start at your decision.
Right, that makes sense to me.
Okay, I'll shoot Bill an email. We have
And it's two separate?
two different people, yes.
Oh,
I
wow.
think there was 3 or 4 letters that went out with people who had violations, suspending them, and 2 of them have chosen to appeal.
Interesting. Something new.
I think that what Nancy's talking about would be a good solution to it, but that's not an option we have right now.
What?
I think that what Nancy had suggested, that we say that from this date to this date, you would be
I
suspended.
think that makes the most
And
sense.
we make sure that the 20 days is in front of it.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, so that's a good, why I was saying, I'm just saying that's a good suggested
Yeah.
solution.
yeah, I think so too.
The way that it's written, doesn't even make sense.
So the way it's written is that it's the month. The actual
Calendar
calendar
month?
month.
No, I
I don't know if it is, but,
Oh, okay.
but that's how it happens.
think it is.
That's how it happens. The letter goes out,
Got it.
says that, the next month you're in violation. And then in the next month is when you can appeal for the 20 days. It's just because it's in the land use section. Maybe we change the section. But anyway, I just wanted to give you a heads up because when you see it, you're gonna say, well, that's what we ran into.
Okay, anything else? Just a reminder that we have a meeting tomorrow at 3:00 on the Holland property.
Right, and so what about Rick Hudson?
Yeah.
Rick is retired. He's gonna retire
June.
June 14th.
Is he actually retiring? Is he going to a different location or is he going to a different job or what?
He didn't provide me that information.
Well, just from our brief discussion with him out in the parking lot before the meeting, it sounded like he was literally retiring.
Right, but continuing to live here.
Oh,
And he's going to be on the cert.
He told me he'd be a CERT volunteer.
So as you indicated in your email, you plan to post the position at
Yes,
some point.
yes.
Okay,
you're not gonna find another Rick.
No.
And Rick and I already started pulling out information to start getting things updated for the posting.
okay.
And Barb and I got kind of a laugh because he said if we needed any explanation on how things could be, should be, or why things are, that we could ask him. And I thought, we are asking God why things are.
Okay, anything else? From anyone?